Ashville got nicked off me.
Oh.
This has never been in Weekly or any of that. It got because I'm not allowed to talk about it. And technically, how am I supposed to talk about it? And furthermore, you lot have put something in my drink because I don't know why I'm telling you this. So, I'm Daniel. This is not Ashville. This is Talkin Shop. We are here for a podcast and we're in the yard.
Thanks for having us, mate. Appreciate it. So
thank you for coming down.
Yeah, we did say when we got here, it's weird after watching it for years and then being on site. So yeah,
it's actually in like a very neat state to what it has been like throughout the winter. That it was a hard winter here.
Oh really?
Like it was really wet. Like it was a hard winter.
Yeah,
it really took its toll.
Yeah.
Because you've moved recently to this site. Haven't you?
We moved from next door.
Yeah.
So, and we are moving in the midst of winter when it was raining. So in the winter, you're running around trying to clean all the mud off and get rid of mud. And in the summer, you're running around trying to stop the dust suppression with water, creating mud.
Yeah.
So
you can't win.
No, that's...
Tell us about how you started Ashville then. I think that would be a good place to start.
Started with construction.
Mm-hmm.
No experience in it. Didn't go to school to learn it. I just decided I'm going to build houses.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why. I just I'm going to build houses. Like my experience, you could probably say, was doing it with Lego.
Right.
I'm just going to build houses and I'm going to work out how it's going to be done. Got on site and realized that I am in fact not going to build houses because I am not a brickie. I don't know how to use any machines. I don't have the foggiest idea.
Yeah.
So I started a construction company, and before I started a construction company, I bought a couple of places in East London. Mm-hmm. East London was the place where I could afford to buy. I was doing personal training, and I thought that if I bought houses in East London, the Olympics would come in 2012 and I would be a billionaire. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So did a lot of other people. That didn't work out, as you can see by us still sitting here. And with the houses I bought in East London, I saved money and I did work to them. But when I was doing work to the houses in East London, I was meeting contractors. So there were third parties coming in, someone to do a loft, someone to do a bathroom, someone to do a kitchen. And I was meeting people along the way and I was learning about trades. And I had a flat near the river in East London. And there was a gentleman who was working in one of the companies. And he said, look, after this job, I'm leaving and I'm going elsewhere. I was like, well, why? He said, because it doesn't suit me here. He didn't complain about the company, but he said it didn't suit him. So I said, look, I'm going to start like a construction company. And he was off, okay, so what do you know about construction? I was like, what do we know about construction? And he was like, right. And I said, do you have any other guys? And he was like, yes. Two of them who still work for me now, those two guys, Chris and Bartek, they work for me in the construction firm. And just out of the blue, I just created a construction company and I focused on what I knew. I know search engine optimization. I knew how I wanted it to look. I knew about branding. I kind of knew about the image that I wanted to portray and where I wanted to go. So I just kind of created everything around it and began to pick up very small jobs here and there. First jobs were within the network, people you know. Somebody gives you a chance, come and do a small garage conversion, which isn't a difficult job. 3 lads working for me. And while this is going on, I'm doing the quoting, working with the lads on site though. So I'm like, well, how long is this going to take? We reckon it's going to take the 3 of us 3 weeks. So then I would go, I say, well, how much of each material do we need roughly? And then I would go to the builders merchants, because luckily my friend managed the builders merchants. And then I would go and get the prices of materials off him. Then he introduced me to the person at the tip. So I'd go and find out how much a ton it is to tip. And then I'd put in an allowance for a bit of diesel. And I tried to formulate it together. And then I would add a little bit for a contingency. And that's kind of how I priced the jobs. I did the invoicing. I did the pricing. I built all the websites. I did every single thing I possibly could, apart from the actual construction work itself. I went and collected the boys. I went to the builders merchants and did all the materials. I was on site. We didn't have an office. I had a serviced office that was on Regent Street, because I thought that if I had an office on Regent Street, people would think the company was doing really well, when it was really just a box that I would just go and collect my mail, once a week. If you looked at the website, you would think that we had 200 employees and we had skyscrapers all over the world. When we were doing a couple of garage conversions and fixing a couple of problems with roofs. With the team that worked for me, the 3 lads, they introduced a couple of other lads, and we probably got our first decent job in 2008. So I bought my first house in East London in 2004, and kind of not messed around, but tried to bump around in the dark and tried to find my way for a couple of years. So we landed a decent job in 2008 in Streatham Common on that same road. I actually got trapped on that road for years because I ended up doing 3 other houses on that road. So, when you do a good job, like recommendation and all the neighbours. And that job in 08 was a loft conversion, rear extension, 4 bathrooms, kitchen, full plumbing, full electric, control 4 system, home automation, everything. So I basically made my little office on site, and I stayed there every single day. And I learnt from the lads. I had client meetings, probably made a load of mistakes. I didn't make a penny from the job because at the time the job is happening, if you imagine you're on a construction site, I don't have all the tools needed. So now we're doing the bathroom. I'm going buying a tile cutter. Now we've got 1 Makita set, the 6 set with the bits in it. Well, we can't there's 9 fellas, we can't all be waiting for the cordless. So now I've got to go and buy another 2 sets. And as time was going on, we began to build what we're doing. Now I need a new laptop because I think if I got a new laptop, I'm going to get a new job. At school, you think if you got your trainers on, you'll be faster at sports day.
Kind of
like that. And then we need another van. And when we get the van, then I'm big on branding. So it needs to be all Ashville and And while I was doing that job, I was constantly advertising. I used to advertise on the back of a magazine called Fabric. It's like a property magazine that you get for free in what they would call affluent postcodes in London. And I advertised on the back cover for must be 2 years. And I remember at the time, it cost me 750 quid every month. And I was thinking to myself, this is the most expensive thing in the world. That back cover is about 6 grand now. And I always advertise on the back cover because I remember being in the GP surgery with my mum and I got a 50% chance, man. That magazine's either going to be this way or it's going to be that way. And those magazines would be in there for years. And I thought, well, if I'm on the back of a magazine, now this is, don't get me wrong, you've got, I think MySpace was just dying then and you've got Facebook and stuff, but nobody knew how big social media was really going to be at that time. So I remember, it shows that I remember all the individual jobs because there weren't that many. But while I was doing it, a gentleman from Harley Street, he saw the magazine and he called us. Because I already had a job running at the time, I used to invite potential clients to the project I was doing. Brilliant. I haven't got a showroom. No. Where am I going to take? I haven't got a showroom. So why don't you come down to this job? Because that way, you know that we are who we say we are, clearly. And he came down and he had a look. And that was when we kind of broke into central London and high end. Because this job was on Harley Street. I think he half knew that I wasn't that experienced, but he also had young children. And I think he liked me, personally. And that's probably the first time I learned that, it's people doing business. Yeah. It's people. So he basically gave me a chance, and that was a 4-level Muse house, or is it 5-level? Just round the back of Harley Street. It's a £6 million house. And when we started that project, carried on advertising, and everyone who called for a job, now I'm bringing them to Harley Street. So at this point, I feel like I'm not begging work anymore. I'm like, yes, we do a lot of work on Harley Street, Knightsbridge, all the affluent postcodes, yes, the regulars in this sort of sector, So, and what's happening as we're doing all of these jobs, we're building our own portfolio of pictures. So no longer have I got a lot of stock footage that when I search it on Google, there's 11 other websites with the same picture. I'm now building my own, my own portfolio, and we have a bit of a resume. So we were just still only doing construction work, and a gentleman from Scotland, my mate Johnny, I got an email one day, and the email, he proper witted me here. The email was like we knew each other. And at this time, I don't know, at that time when you're a lot younger, like we're talking, what are we, 25, 15 years ago? When an email comes through and someone's talking to you about work and it's like they know you, now I'll be like, is it? But then I was like, oh my God, this is work.
Yeah.
And he sent me an email like he knows me, and we've got these jobs in London. So I've met this geezer, and I'll never forget. We've gone to Camden to the Starbucks, and we've sat there and we're talking, and he's talking and talking. I'm thinking, I don't know this man. Like, where do I know this man from? I don't know this man. And he was like, look, I've moved to London, and he did soft furnishings, wallpaper, all the stuff that I didn't really do, because at that point, my experience is we're painting walls and we're doing all the home automation, but I'm not doing like fabrics on walls. I'm not taking fabrics and backing them onto wallpaper for these high-end finishes. So after the meeting, I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you, mate. Like, we've got to level with each other here if we're going to be pals. Do we know each other? He went, no. I was like, right. So why'd you email me? He said, because I checked on Company's House and I saw we're the same age. And he went, I can tell that you're young and you're just starting out. He said, no one at any big companies is going to talk to me. But I got half a chance with you because you're doing jobs, and we're still pals to this day.
Yeah.
And he still provides me with my kitchens. He still provides me with my wallpapers. He provided that sofa, what you are sitting on right now.
Wow.
And he actually opened up a showroom, and we're both young guys. We're trying to make it work. Don't believe the hype on the website because we got no money. But the websites don't show that. And he found a showroom on King's Road. And I believe the landlord was slightly distressed at the time because somebody had moved out. And he said, I'm going to take this shop, but I don't really want to take this shop by myself. And I was like, we've gone there. It's 500 square foot on the top floor, 500 square foot in the basement. And he's like, I'll take the ground floor, you take the basement. And I was like, do you know what? I want to do high-end resi. I was like, King's Road postcode. Where's your office? King's Road.
Yes.
End of story.
Say no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, say no more. So we took on this showroom. I refurbished it, and I came up with a concept because people always ask me, what about this? What about that? So it was only 500 square foot. I built a desk. I had shelves on the back wall with loads of different fixtures and fittings with taps for sinks. And I set the whole thing up with home automation. I had a massive walnut media unit, and every single door on that media unit was a different electronic Blum opening. So one opened in half, one came up automatic. Every single opening you could possibly have, one of these doors, like, it was just, nothing exceeds like excess, does it?
Yeah.
But I wanted to, at the time when you're that young, you kind of overdo it because you don't want no one to know that that you're new.
Yeah.
So, and then within all of these, one of them had all kitchen worktops. The other one had all kitchen door samples. The other one had I had every single Blum hinge there was. Like, it's not It's not necessary.
No.
But I had every single one there was.
Yeah.
And in the kitchen, you'd open it and there'd be 2 drawers. And as you pull out the drawers, then we'd have all the veneered MDF samples for any cupboards which we were going to build and bits we were going to do. So I'd invite people down. I'd sit them on the sofa, very much like this. And it had, see, this is back in the day, yeah. I had 7.1 surround. People didn't have 7.1 surround sound. Like everyone was on 5.1. But I was living life. So I would sit them down and I would say, here's your existing plans. And then I put a little cross dissolve. Here's your proposed plans, showing them the different plans. And then I'd stand there and I'd kind of do like a bit of a show and they'd say, right, move this wall, do this, do that, do that. And Johnny would quickly amend the plans and I'd show him and they'd be like, right, that's the great layout. Then I'd start pulling out tile samples. Then I'd pull out floor samples and I began to build the house because what had happened as the work increased, we began to come into more competition with others. And of course, with competition, now the rates have started to go down. And I've realized if I'm just going to if I'm just going to be going everywhere, charging people labor, rubbish, I'm never going to make any money out of this. So we began to supply people with the fixtures and fittings. And it also meant that they didn't go elsewhere. And then now with my mate Johnny from Scotland, Johnny used to step in and say, I've got the furniture. I've got all the pelmets for the curtains. And people didn't really take to me with the mood boards, but Johnny had a way with words. And when he created a mood board and he moved the colors around with the fabrics, I learned a lot from him because his family had always sold furniture. So he had a way of kind of getting the projects over the line. And yeah, he could execute, but it now meant that people we were working with, they didn't need to go elsewhere. You don't need to go to any bathroom showroom. You don't need to go to any flooring showroom. Because when you go there, I don't know what this person's going to try and sell you and how they're going to try and get me out of the door. So we got our showroom in Kings Road. Company's growing, like the staff, we're up to about 20 people in the construction firm. And we began to get a couple of basements in southwest London, down Balham. And when we're digging the basements, we started to encounter a problem because my mates are all from like West London, Northwest London. And I had a couple of friends with lorries, but they said, look, Dan, I ain't gonna, if I go South London, I'm going to drop another job elsewhere. So we had to start using people we didn't know and we couldn't get the service. So imagine we're digging in the basement. I got 10 fellas digging, got a conveyor belt and I got a skip outside. Now, with the skip outside, if the grab lorry's not going to come and empty the skip, you can't dig because there's not enough space. And when somebody doesn't turn up for 2 or 3 days and you've got 10 fellas smoking cigarettes and drinking Red Bull and not doing any work, you can't tell them to do work if they can't get rid of the waste.
Yeah.
So one day on a whim, I'll never forget it. I was outside 541 Kings Road, directly in line with Chelsea Stadium. Yeah, I'm standing there with my arms crossed. I'll never forget. They were tarmacking the road. And then a white aggregate industries lorry pulled up and he tipped up in the air. He dropped all the tarmac and I was like, Ashville aggregates. And at that point, Johnny went, here we go. And he's just walked back in. He's just walked back inside. And at that point, I took it upon myself. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do this myself. I've had enough of all this. This was before the weight of the world crushed my spirit. Yeah. This is a long time ago. So on a whim, I don't know anything about lorries. I've gone and bought a grab.
Yeah.
I've gone and bought a grab lorry. I paid, it was an 09 DAF LT59 NNV, my first lorry.
Yeah.
So this lorry's landed. I'm going to pay 65 grand for it. I'm looking at this lorry. This is great. I've jumped in the lorry on the first day and I've turned the ignition and the red warnings come on and I've destroyed it and I've turned it off and run off. Yeah. But what I didn't realize is the air had to build up. So without the air building up, so I just run off. And I've got to find my mate. I said, I've destroyed the lorry. I just put the key in. I don't know. At that point, this is in 2000 and we're in 2013 now at this point. At that point, my mate Aidan from Harrier, he used to run lorries. And he gave me a lot of advice, and he introduced me to my townie, who to this day still does all the work in the yard and on the lorries. And he said, lad, you have to just turn it on and let the air build up. And I said, okay, fine, fair enough. And he was like, so you going doing a bit of work, are you? I said, yeah. He goes, how'd you get a no license so quickly? I said, what's a no license? He was like, what? He was like, what's a no license? He goes, have you got a license? I said, yeah, well, I got the provisional. And if someone sits in there with me, at this point, there's a yard full of people scratching their head.
Yes.
This is at 400 Edgware Road in the Wonder years, in my old yard in Cricklewood.
Yeah, just winging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they were like, look, lad, like it doesn't work like this. So I had to go and do my lorry test, pass my test. And then I thought, well, I haven't got enough work for me to have a full-time driver. So I began to just drive the lorry myself. So doing the grab work on our basements. And then one day I went and I tipped. And where I tipped the earth, I was like, these people have got sand. These people have got stone. These people have got type 1. I was like, aha, I might be onto something here. So now my build firm, I'm supplying my own build firm with the material that I used to buy from the builders merchants. So synergies, it means we're not waiting. It means we're efficient. So as life does, life decides to get in the way, because that's what life does. It just makes life so difficult. We don't get any basement digs for a while. We're busy, but we haven't got any basement work. And I figured out that a lorry wasn't the best thing to be driving around all day as your personal vehicle.
Yeah.
And then I sit by the side of the road, hotspots on the laptop, answering the phone, and people trying to talk to me. Like, and this is way before aircon in all lorries, man. Like, I've got the window down. I'm running around like Vauxhall roundabout with people trying to talk to me about their kitchen in Chelsea. So I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't going to work like this. And we didn't get any digs. But then I thought to myself, right, all the people that we used to tender against for jobs, well, I've got their details. I've seen their emails. So we started to reach out to people, and the very first customer who gave us a chance was BH Basements, who until we stopped running lorries, he was still using. These are like long-term relationships. So I called him and I said, look, I can't beat the other people on price, but I'll be there when I say I will. And he was like, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, but we're waiting for a couple of jobs to start. Like, we've only got one job running at the moment. Me, I'm like, oh no, that's all right. Yeah, we'll service that one job. And we start to service the job. And instead of, this is my first experience of as dug ballast. So instead of muck coming out of this job, there's ballast coming out. So straight away, he wants a reduced rate, but I'm selling the ballast. So I'm in this lorry myself. So this is my first experience of general aggregates and waste outside of the construction company. And the construction company is still working. We've got jobs. It's just no digs going on. And I remember we're in Chelsea. I'm doing 4 load a day. I'm charging £200 a load to take it, which is a reduced rate than he was paying. It's actually less money now. How does that work out? It's actually less money now. I was taking it for £200 a load, and I was getting paid £5 a ton for it. And I had no overheads and no expenses, and I was there 5 days a week. So at this point, I'm thinking like lorries is the way forward.
Yeah.
I'm going to get me 100 of these if this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So then I've only got one client, so I'm not under too much pressure. But what happens is he's now starting his other jobs. One's in Mornington Crescent, one somewhere else. And now these jobs are spread out over London. So now I can't get to these jobs. And he's like, look, lad, the work is yours, but I can't not do the job. So at this point, he's like, you said you had other lorries. I was like, yeah. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he still brings it up to this day. He says, you said you've got other lorries. I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, where are they? I said, on day work. He goes, with who? And I looked across the road and I went, Tesco.
Oh, no.
And he's gone, Your lorries are on day work with Tesco. I said, yeah, in the car parks and that. He went, and he was like, but don't they give that to a main contractor and then you work through the main? No. I'm doing a lot with Tesco because I know them quite well. At this point, like, you want the ground to swallow you.
Yeah. You've gone in too far.
Yeah, and now he keeps bringing it up to this point.
Yeah.
So here we are. I go and buy another 2 grab lorries. So at this point, I'm buying used lorries and I'm maintaining them. This is way before this Ulez and all of this. Like, this is the wonder years. Yeah. So I've gone and bought myself another 2 grabs. Well, with all the best intentions in the world, I can't drive one grab and have 2 sets of string on steering wheels and drive drive the 3 grabs together. So now I've moved into the world of drivers, which changes things.
Oh, yes.
We're now in the world of, I am experienced in a construction site, tradesmen, people working. Having drivers and people physically being on the road, operating HGVs for you with cranes is a completely different thing. Now I'm into the realms of worrying about other people's driving hours, worrying about their certification on the cranes. Like, we're somewhere completely new now. So at this point, I'm still driving 1, but I've got another 2 and we're servicing the work. Now I've got this new website, couple lorries on there. We're doing well. I was big on branding. And when I launched the Ashville Aggregates website, people didn't even know what SEO was. They were like, it was all based on relationships. It's very old school. The people who had been in it for a long time, and you got work by shaking people's hands and the golf day or down the pub. But I didn't have any of that. I didn't know anyone. Like, I knew like 2 people and I just had to find my way. So when my website landed, it went number 1 for everything. Grab hire, tipper hire, aggregate supplier, waste removal. It was number 1. But at this point, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to go and buy more lorries now because now I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to go backwards. Like, because this is before, like, at this point in my life, I don't know retreat. Like, this is like Leonidas 300. That's an easy choice for us to make, Arcadian. Like I'm not retreating, but I'm boxing at a different weight because my first lorry was 65 grand, but the other lorries, they were like 30s and 40s here and there. So we're doing well, and I'm buying the lorry, I'm spending money on it, I'm respraying it, I'm getting it tested, I'm looking after these old lorries, but they are a pain because they're old lorries. Yeah. And we begin to do more work for others, and I realise that I've got all these grab lorries, we're taking away all this earth. What am I meant to do with all this earth? Because we had a little yard with a permit on it and we had this muck coming back. I was like, well, now I need a tipper. What am I going to do? Like, I need a tipper. I need to get rid of some of this. So now I had to buy a tipper. So now I've got like 4 or 5 grabs. I've got 1 tipper. Now I need yard space because we're out of the realms of paying to park. I need yard space because I'm messing around. Like, I need to keep my oils. I've got containers. I need space. And I'm doing all of this alongside running the construction business. So the construction business is in Chelsea and now I've got a yard in Cricklewood. And then one day, as life does, life decides that in the borough of Wandsworth, where I did do quite a bit of work, you're no longer allowed to grab muck out of skips. Because what was happening is, not saying I am not guilty in this as well, people pull up in the middle of the road and I need to take the muck out the skip. Like, almost, but I can't keep going around the block. No. So people would basically block the road, drop the grab legs, take the muck and then leave. And it was causing havoc. So Wandsworth Council have turned around and said, no more grabbing out of skips. There's loads of basement excavation down there in southwest London. So people have had to start dropping 8-yard skips. You can't drop a 12-yard because you fill it with muck, it's going to be too heavy. You ain't going to be able to lift it. And the 8-yard skips are getting changed 4, 5, 6 times a day. So now I start losing all my work. So I've gone and bought a skip lorry because I've decided that all of a sudden I know about it. And I learned very quickly. I said to everyone, right, listen, man, I don't do skips. I am only doing this for the inert, or the ballast, which is coming out of your basement. So please don't put any rubbish in this skip. Do you think one person listened for one skip?
Absolutely.
You can't tell people what to put in their skip.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm still just an aggregates and like waste management, but waste management of soils.
Yeah.
Now these lot are filling the skips full of stuff. So now I'm fully into skips. Now I need to go and buy more skips. And now I can't keep up. Now I need another skip lorry.
Oh, no.
So now I need more grabs. So now I've got myself drawn into this big thing and I'm running like 12 lorries. And we're still doing the construction work. And every site we kept turning up at, the priority was always the concrete. Lorry can't do this. Lorry's got to come back later. We're waiting for the concrete lorry. The concrete lorry's here. So I start scratching my chin and I'm like, right, well, I've got all the clients already. If it's not busy, my construction firm needs concrete. I'm going to go and buy a concrete lorry. But then I thought to myself, well, I ain't going buying a concrete batch plant. I can't afford it. But what I can buy is a volumetric, a mobile batch plant. So I've gone and bought a volumetric lorry. And because I'm not starting from scratch, because I've already got a client base. Everybody who uses me to supply them with aggregates and to do their muck away, as long as I don't let them down or mess it up, they're gonna use
concrete.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the concrete lorry is busy. But you know how it is. You just can't service the work with one lorry. You just can't. What if you go down to Southeast London on Friday at 4:00 and they need 1 meter more?
Yeah.
You're like,
game over.
And you know, and it's a different concept driving concrete lorries. You know that you have to keep driving until the pour is finished, but it doesn't mean that you're going to like it. So I got and bought another concrete lorry. So now we got 2 concrete lorries. And at this point, the whole aggregates and concrete and waste management, it's its own beast.
Yeah.
But the construction company has also grown. And so now I've got a lot going on. But the growth of the construction company, I kind of looked at what bigger companies were doing. And without thinking about it, I just thought to myself, that's what I should be doing. But I'm not thinking about it. And I'm not thinking about the profitability of that. All I know is that the big companies, I know if I go into a Balfour Beatty office, they've got a QS, they've got someone in procurement, they've got a project manager, and they've got consultants consulting on consultancy for consultant's sake. I know that. So I've decided that that's what I have to do because that's what I'm meant to do. And the construction company began to grow and we did our NHBC. So now now we can new build. We're up to about 36 tradesmen full time, a whole back office, and we're starting some decent jobs. And the lorries are actually 30 to 40% of the time, they're actually supplying my own construction company. So I'm thinking, right, this is going really well. But when you leave the realms of people who make decisions in construction based on lifestyle, moving over to developers who wouldn't give you last year's calendar and want to take the shirt off your back, it's a completely different mindset. They're not interested in how good the job is, like within the walls or the finish, because they just want to sell it. And I had a number of people working for me, like quantity surveyors and stuff. And I didn't know at that time that while people put the company first, people have their own interests. And if someone feels like they're not getting any projects over the line, they may just agree to a job because we haven't won anything. And next thing you know, I'm doing a job and I'm like, hold on a minute, there's no money in this. Like, what's going on here? Like, why are we doing this? Who's accepting a job on 3 and 4%? And then someone makes a mistake. And we had a big hoo-ha with a couple of jobs. Then I faced my first experiences with litigation. We had litigation on a couple of jobs. And 3 in total. We had litigation. People who didn't want to pay for whatever reason. And all 3 times we went to court, and every single time we won and we got paid, but we never got awarded legal costs, which were the same amount of money that we were owed.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah.
And at this point in construction, we've kind of got our NHBC. I've got a portfolio of high-end builds. I've worked with developers. I've done demo. I've basically not done everything I want to do, but I'm not here trying to prove a point. I can prove what I can do. And at that, I made a decision that the construction firm, I began to shrink it down, because working with developers and massive principal contractors, I decided that our niche and our skill set was more suited to working on residential projects where people were making lifestyle choices, or developers, but on high-end resi. I thought that was more profitable for us, and it was what we were suited to, because you can't have somebody work with you for 5 or 6 years and you're struggling for 2 days to lay a marble tile because of floor levels and you're doing it perfect, and then walk onto another job and say to the same fella, just close your eyes and paint this wall in magnolia, hurry up, we're not making money on the job. Like, you have to decide what it is you do. You can't give people mixed signals.
Yeah.
So I began to slim down the construction firm and got rid of some consultants within that business, and I kept the core people within the business, because when you got a lot of people working for you, there's a percentage of those people doing 90% of the work, and the rest of them are just hiding. So I kind of, went through the weeds and kept the people that we wanted to keep, and began to choose the jobs that we want to do, which we enjoy doing, which the clients appreciate, and where we might actually make some money, as opposed to being busy fools. And at the same time, I closed the shop in King's Road, because it was more of just a focal point to show people, look, like, I can do what I say I will. And I realized that having a showroom, a lot of people just want to come into the showroom to use you.
Yeah.
They're going to come in there. I'm going to do all of their plans. And I am not confident enough at that age to turn around and say, well, I want a deposit. Why am I doing work for free? I'm not that confident yet. Like, this isn't like, it's not now. Like, so why am I doing that? I'm not doing that. So people would just come in and use us, spend months talking about a load of kitchens and stuff. And the next thing you know, I'm driving past the house and I see a load of scaffold up and another sign.
Oh,
you're selling the dream. But then
somebody else is cashing in on it.
Yeah. Because in their head, they're like, well, he's got a showroom in King's Road. I ain't paying for that.
Yeah.
So we closed King's Road down, and I moved all the operations together, and we were based in Cricklewood, and the build team and the lorries are still running. And then we moved back over onto the lorries, and I got another problem. Every time the concrete lorry turns up at the job, we're waiting for the pump. There's a problem with the pump. The pump isn't there. The pump hasn't turned up. So I went and bought a pump. So now we do concrete pumping as well. So now we do grabs, we do skips, we do tippers, and we do concrete and we do pumping. Yeah. So now we do all of these, and I'm trying to find work for these lorries. I'm doing anything. I'm trying to put them on day work here. I'm trying to use initiative and keep the assets working. I had a fantastic setup in Cricklewood, but at that point, I had never had a long-term commitment on a yard. We were in different yards, and in those yards, it's like the Wild Wild West, and it's 28-day notice. I spent a bundle of money setting up that yard, and I remember it was the 4th of January, about to start the year again, and I just received a letter from the landlord at the time that says you've got 28 days to get out the yard.
Oh.
Yeah. I've grown my entire business
in that yard.
In that yard, that's my entire business. like all the local grab jobs that and who wants, really and truly, who wants a load of lorries and people in there? They don't. Couldn't find a yard. And from Cricklewood, I had to move the business. This is about 2017. I had to move the business to Langley. So I've gone completely out of London now. And now the jobs I was doing, because of the cost of diesel, those jobs don't make sense. I had a grab lorry doing 6 load a day. I'm down to 3 loads a day now. And at the time, I had some drivers, they were nice people. They were good lads, but they had accidents and they had problems and they caused damage. And my insurance doubled. Oh. So my insurance went up to 10 grand a lorry. And this is in 2017.
Wow.
So now I've just spent all these years building all this business, doing all of this. And now I'm looking at a bunch of lorries in a yard. I've got no business around there. My insurance is through the roof. And I was like, right, well.
It's not viable anymore.
Yeah. So I'm either going to have to push on and keep going, or I'm just going to have to just let this go. I decided to make a go of it. And I accepted that year, those lorries weren't going to make any money. And they didn't. But the next year, because of the claims experience, it came down to 8 grand a year. Then it went down to 7 grand a year. Then it went down to 6.5. Like the insurance did come down over the years. It never got below 6.5 though. No. But so we're in the Langley yard. And now, because of all the years and the times I've been burnt, I'm thinking in my head, I can now see signs and I know what's going to happen to me because I'm just getting kicked from pillar to post here. I know that I know something's bad's going to happen. So I start looking for a yard because I'm like, look, if I'm going to make a go of it, like I want a long-term lease. I found, not this yard, a yard over the other side. Nothing to do with rail yet. No trains yet. No. There was an acre yard and I was negotiating with the landlord and I wasn't getting anywhere. They didn't take me serious. I get it, man. It's a young guy with a load of lorries. This geezer's going to be a headache. I get it. And I didn't get the yard. So then I've decided at that point, well, I need people to know who we are. I'm going for it. So I decide I'm going sponsoring a football team here. Yeah. So we start to sponsor QPR because I was trying to take people out and build relationships, but you're taking people out places and then it gets to a certain time. I'm not saying me, but I'm saying that some people want to go to some places like late at night where they might get in trouble when they go home, like with their other half. And like, I'm not,
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, we're on the same way. And I'm thinking, and then when they go home, these people are blaming me.
Yeah.
Like it was my idea to go and spend my money in that place. Like why would I want to spend money in there? So, and then they're never allowed to go out with me again.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of what to do. I want to get the name out there. I want people to know it's a solid brand. It's not here today, gone tomorrow. I want to take people somewhere, but I don't mind if they get upside down drunk. I don't mind. But what does he say in Goodfellas? You got to go home.
Yeah.
like you got to go home. So I thought, sponsoring QPR, I had a box. I was like, do you know what? And professional sports, like it's a common ground. Yeah. Even if we got nothing to talk about, we can both appreciate
football.
That's a 2-footed challenge and there's going to be a punch up.
Yeah.
Or or Trevor Sinclair's overhead kick is one of the best goals ever. Like they hit the crossbar and went in. We can all accept that. So we started sponsoring QPR and name got out there. It was pretty good. It was working very well in the beginning. And then what happened was one day I got a call from a gentleman and he said, is this Daniel? I was like, yeah. He said, I'm so-and-so. I was like, right. He went, is this the same Ashville that's at QPR? I was like, yeah. He went, yeah, we spoke about that yard. I went, yeah, we did. The one when you wouldn't return my phone calls. That one. Yeah. And he went, well, that was a misunderstanding, wasn't it? I said, clearly.
Yeah.
And he then put me back in contact with the landlord and he basically, he co-signed me, but he said, look, this is a serious business. And the landlord then began to speak to me and that's how I got the yard here.
Yeah.
Because one of the people at the agents was a QPR fan. And when they saw we sponsored QPR, they went to the landlord and said, this geezer's serious, you know.
No way.
Like, he sponsors QPR, he must be serious. That's how we got the yard.
It's funny how things happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good flex, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
if there's a way to do it, that's a pretty good flex. Yeah.
So now we've got this new yard.
Yeah.
And I bought a couple more tippers. And now we're up to 3 volumetrics. Decent sized yard. Still doing well. But then life once again gets in the way and gives me a good old kick in the crotch. And to go into London now, you need Euro 6 lorries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving a fleet of Euro 4 and Euro 5. I've been looking after these lorries, spending a fortune on them. They're good lorries, but there's no way that I'm going to be able to operate not going up and down the M4 and the A40. I'm not going to be able to. So this is the time when funding and other things and finance starts coming into it. Because I cannot go, with all the will in the world, I can't go and buy a bunch of new lorries for 120 grand a piece.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't have the resort. I haven't been going 30 years. Like my dad's dad didn't start this. Mm-hmm. So now this is the point where we start to order lorries and we need finance. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to manage it in the sense that bring on some new ones, let go of some old ones. Bring on some new ones, let go of some old ones. But the trouble is we're busy. Mm. So the new ones are coming and the new ones and the old ones are all still working at the same time.
Yep.
And then what happens is we begin to get the attention of some of the larger companies because now we can't be ignored. But what's happened is I'm going places and I'm saying, oh yeah, we need a load of sand. They were like, no, we ain't got no sand. I can see the sand over there.
Yeah.
No, it's not for you.
Yeah.
And we begin to find it difficult to find a place to tip and a place to collect material. We used to tip at a place in Park Royal and the powers that be turned around and said, you ain't tipping here. And then we had to go from tipping in Park Royal. So what I would do, the lorry would leave here and they go down and do work in London, tip in Park Royal and do the work down there and then come back at the end of the day. But now they're not having it. And now I have to go and tip in Watford.
Which is, just doesn't,
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to leave Langley, I'm going to go to London, do a job, drive to Watford, drive to London, and then it just doesn't work. So I begin to try and think of a way that I was going to like work out how this was good. Because we're at another crossroad here. I'm either going to carry on doing this or I'm going to say, nah, this is what am I doing all this for?
Do you know how to do that? Do you know, it seems like...
Man, well, I do now. I do now. But at this point, I'm in a gearbox with no reverse.
Yeah.
Like I've only got forward.
You've come so far to be able to go now.
I've got 2 gears, neutral and forward. Like, I haven't got no reverse.
No.
Yeah.
So a rail yard comes up for grabs, and the rail yard, I thought about rail because the yard in Park Royal where we used to tip, they were transporting the muck by train. And I was like, oh, trains. I like trains. Like I had train sets when I was a kid. I like trains. Who don't like trains? So
how much is a train?
A locomotive is about, a used refurbished locomotive is about 3 million quid.
Oh, yeah.
And each wagon is about 150 grand.
Yeah, enough then.
And to run a train, you need minimum of 150 million pound of liability before you pull out of the gate.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I said, I like trains. I didn't say I buy trains. I like trains.
Okay. Yeah. You looked into it though.
Yeah, I did. That's how I know. And then, so a yard came up in Park Royal, round the corner from the other one, a rail yard. And at this point, because I had been, I'm so deep in construction, I've done so many appraisals, I've done so many quotations, I've done so many presentations. When you get in a network rail yard, everybody has to put a bid forward. Like it's an open shop, anyone can bid for it. And I put together a bid and I submitted, and Network Rail were very impressed with my bid because other people just write on the back of a napkin and just say, look, that's it, innit? Like, But
Take a look.
I always took pride in it. And I got down to the last 2. And the people that won it, because they had a much better track record and they had done trains before, I lost the yard. And I was very distraught about it. But I met people within Network Rail, and the company who won it, HS2 took it off them anyway.
Right, okay.
So I would have only got it taken off me. But I didn't know that at the time it was the end of the world, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was going to get taken off them anyway. But now I have experience. Now I'm back in the yard up here one day, and there was a couple of plots around which they were trying to rent out, which they couldn't. So I'm walking in one of the backyards and I'm kicking stones and I kick something in the ground. I was like, what's this? I start kicking it again. Like, I could have found gold here. We're in here, boys. So I grabbed the lads. I said, hey, grab a shovel. And we start uncovering and we start digging. It's kind of like Jurassic Park, like we're there dusting, trying to uncover it. And I'm thinking, there's a train track hidden in the ground here. So I've called my pals at Network Rail. I'm like, do you know this place? And they said, yeah, that is an abandoned site. Somebody bought it and they've covered over the train track. And this is an abomination. Like, this is a protected mineral site. That shouldn't have happened. Wow. So I've said, aha. So I've called the landlord and I said, the landlord at the time, I've called the landlord and I said, you got a train track under here, which you covered. And he went, yeah, we're not really into that. I want to get permission for a data center. And I said, but you haven't got anyone renting the yard. And he went, well, yeah, you're right. And he said, besides, I'm having a couple of problems with Network Rail and they don't approve of this, they don't approve of that. And I've put my thinking cap on and I called back Network Rail and I said, I want to reopen this railhead. If I could open this railhead, would you support me? Because now Network Rail aren't compromised. This isn't a Network Rail site. This is a landlord who closed a rail site and I'm trying to reopen it. And Network Rail said, look, we support anyone who's going to reopen a railhead. So I called the landlord and I said, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Like the Godfather. And I said, I can facilitate a conversation with Network Rail so things can be amicable, but I would like that yard and I would like to reopen it. And he said, if you can just get Network Rail to just talk to me, I'll support it. So at that point, put everyone together, Network Rail are in support, and the landlord agrees to let me have that site and that I can reinstate the train track because I need to do it because no one else is going to give me material. Probably takes about 4, 5, 6 months. And when we are about to move into the yard, I'm speaking to the landlord and I say, hey, now we're moving into this yard. See this 5-year lease? It's not really going to work for me.
Yeah.
10 sounds a lot better. And he was like, yeah, 10, 5-year break. Well, I said, fine. I said, but you see the lease I've already got on the yard next door? We don't want all different dates. Let's start that one again. Because I've been in there a year now. Let's start that one again. Let's start afresh. 10 years. He said, all right, fine, Daniel, let's do it.
Brilliant.
I now have 10 years with 5-year break clause. Now that's important because that's going to come back later in this story. So I now have 10 years in this yard and I've opened a railhead. When I've opened this railhead, I've now realised I don't have enough lorries. Again. But now a lorry ain't a 30 grand lorry I'm buying.
Oh, no.
Now we're talking tippers, and my first tipper I ever bought, it cost me 112. By the time I went back, every time I went back, there was another 10 and another 10 and another 10. So the second group of tippers I bought, we're now at 125. So the price of these lorries is going up. But when this is happening, all I'm doing is spending. So to this point, the companies have been organically, no investment from anyone. The companies have grown year on year. Granted, I'm working 24 hours a day, but that's life, isn't it? Like you're not gonna get something for nothing. But now we're in the realms of getting finance and having to pay for these things monthly. It's one thing parking up a tipper and you don't owe any money on it and you just declare it sawn and take it off the insurance. That's one thing. It's another thing when you got £2,800 to pay at the end of the month for that lorry and that lorry needs to be out working. So we've ordered a bunch of lorries and a job comes in HS2. And the railhead ain't even been open that long. A job comes in. 150,000 ton of 6C material into Maple Cross HS2. You know when you think you made it?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
it's
a
all
job.
in for this moment. Yeah.
One train a day. 5 days a week. 7 load a day on each tipper going into HS2. We did 150,000 ton in 5 months. We were, as it was coming off the train, it was going straight into the lorries. We were flying. Powerful lesson to learn here, because I only learn on the job. I'm not isolated, but I'm not really in the industry, kind of. We're doing this work, and one day the work goes falls flat on its face. They don't want no more material. Yeah.
Because somebody's decided, oh, no, we will cancel that. We'll stop it now.
And now I've got a yard full of material and I've got a load of lorries and I'm scratching for work. Here we go. Daniel finds himself in another position where he's got a... So now I'm trying to diversify. I'm trying to do anything I can. I'm going out. I've learnt my lesson. I'm spreading our client portfolio. I've made a rule. No one client is allowed to be more than 15% of our revenue. And we work it through, and you know, it takes time, but it works. Now, the whole time I'm trying to diversify, doing more lines of business, but with what we have. So we decide we're going to stop bagging, and we decide we're going to start handling, which basically means instead of me paying someone for the material, I'm just charging to offload and store it because I can't take the cash flow burden. We're doing concrete blocks now. I was using so many concrete blocks. I was like, no, I'm not having that. I'm going to pour them and make them myself. So now we sell concrete blocks. We sell material in bags. We sell materials loose. We do handling and operating in the yard. And then for the people who were using us for skips, they kept asking for roll on, roll off bins. And I'm like, well, I ain't got enough work to keep a roll on, roll off busy. And I haven't got enough work to keep another lorry busy for just doing bags. So that's when we bought the roll on, roll off with the crane on it, because that was basically a utility vehicle for us to run around and do bits and pieces. So we are now in, it's a long story, innit? We are now in around 2021. Yeah. Sorry, COVID hits.
Oh yeah, there you forgot about that one.
Yeah.
COVID hits.
Yeah.
So COVID lands. Nobody actually knows what's going to happen in COVID. I have a member of staff at the time who, in the midst of COVID, decides that they were going to have a party a New Year's party at their house. Come back in January. They make the whole office ill with COVID. And I am here by myself for 2 months, 5 phones in front of me on the weighbridge. It's a bit different with lorries. The lorries were still running. They weren't doing work worthwhile, but they were running, trying to break even because I have to pay for them at the end of the month. They're not, no one ain't interested in COVID. They don't care. So the lorries are out and I'm running all the lorries and everything by myself in the weighbridge. And I'm as sick as a dog. But if I don't come in, there will be nothing left. What will happen? At the same time, going back to construction, I'm doing developments at this stage. I'm doing in-house developments. I've bought a house in Queen's Park. That house, it was 4 levels. I've converted it into 3 flats. Estate agents were coming round. This is great. We're going to sell it. It's going to be fantastic. And I'm looking at the end and how much I'm going to make. This property development's going well. It's, because we've done so well in construction, I have the resources to do developments. As soon as I come out of this one, I'm getting in another one, the property development. It would be good if my construction firm only ever did our in-house developments, going well. And COVID hits. And my site manager has had a kidney transplant, so he's high risk. I've got to shut the site. So I'm in the middle of a property development. I've had to shut the site. No one's in the office. I'm by myself in the Weybridge for 2 months. This is when I really learn about what happens when you borrow money from people. I paid the deposit. I bought it. I paid the stamp duty, which was 112 grand. Can you imagine? And what was happening is we were taking I put down 30%. It was 1.1 million to buy it. I put down 30%. I paid the stamp duty. It's a lot of money. We're doing the work and the mortgage, and there was development funding. So basically I'd do like work, and then I would put in a submission. They'd come round and look, and then they'd pay us the money back, because I'm still doing other build jobs trying to do other build jobs at the same time. But COVID hit, and I said, look, there's no one on site. Can you freeze it? They were like, no. They said, Boris said you can work. I was like, what? I was like, no, the site is closed. Like, it's COVID. They were like, yeah, so it's not our problem. And the finance ran out, like the time period, and then they changed it to a rate where you're outside a formula, and they started banging me with 14 grand a month of interest. Oh. And I tried to go to other funders, but who's there to fund me in the middle of COVID? Nope. So the site's closed. I'm getting spanked with 14 grand a month, and I'm in here, lorries running around by myself, and I've got monthlies to pay on these lorries. And the finance company on the property, they've come back to me and said, all right. We're going to give you a new loan. And on this new loan, we're going to reduce the interest to 7 grand a month till you can open the site. And I said, okay, how much is the loan? Well, to convert this loan to the new loan, that's going to be 35 grand. So I'm like, oh my God, really? But what choice did I have? So now I've paid another 35 grand, and now I'm paying 7 grand a month. The site reopens and the site finishes, but we just come out of COVID. We're in COVID.
Yeah. So everyone they don't want to spend money.
Yeah, they don't want to spend money.
Yeah.
Luckily, someone steps in and buys the top flat for cash. Brilliant. First day, 790 grand. I'm able to pay them, and then the other apartments, I remortgaged the two of them. And when I remortgaged the two of them, the outstanding money, I remortgaged them on buy-to-lets, and I pulled out some money, and then I was able to get the development funding. I was able to get them away from me. But that little episode in COVID, for somebody who took a mortgage for like 18 months, I think it was, and took development funding of about 300, I think it was, for the build, they walloped me for £300,000 of interest.
Wow. Jeez.
300 grand of interest in 18 months.
That's just...
Yeah.
Wow.
So all a lot of the goodness which I had developed over the years, like it was a big old, you got to remember, for you to have 318 grand for them to take, you had to make it. But how much did you have to make? And how much tax did you have for you to be left with that?
Yeah.
So that is a massive, that's just, there's still some equity in the properties, but we come out of that. And
at this point, did you not have that thought? Because everybody at that point, especially if you're running wagons, cost of them obviously shot up. Nobody could get them. Did you not think then, sit there and go, oh, my trucks are, worth, some of them could be worth double what I pay for. Sod this. Nobody wants to come back to work. No idea what's going on. Okay, did you not have that one day where you thought, you know what, why am I even doing this?
I did, but I just signed a 10-year lease on a yard.
Yeah.
I say, even if you could sell the trucks for more than you bought before, you still.
I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
Now I just signed 10 year. You got to remember, who could have predicted COVID? So now I'm in. I got all these trucks. I've signed up for all these finance. I just got spanked on a development deal, and here we are again.
Yeah.
Now what are we going to do? So are we going to roll the dice? And while this is all happening, I'm learning as time's going. And I was like, I ain't going to do that again. I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do that again.
Just a quick message from our sponsor. Do you work on or run a fleet of vehicles, vessels, or machinery? Do you struggle with downtime and expensive maintenance costs? Maybe you're tired of your basic diagnostic tools giving little or no technical information. Well, Eclipse Diagnostics have you covered with GelTest, the leading supplier offering advanced diagnostic troubleshooting with OEM level technical information, inclusive of wiring diagrams and repair manuals. Eclipse dedicated support teams are on hand to keep your fleet moving, offering remote product support with the capability of ECU programming and even software updates. Take back control of your fleet and inquire with Eclipse Diagnostics today. Quote promo code Talkin Shop to receive a free cable saver with your order and keep your valuable equipment well protected. Thanks again, and back to the podcast.
Okay. So now I am approached by a company who say, look, we've been seeing what you're doing and we really want to work with you. This is what we do. This is our turnover. And I said, so what do you want with me? And they said, well, what we want to do, we want to create a construction superpower, and we have £25 million worth of construction work that needs to be done. We want the company to be within our group because we want to count your turnover in our turnover. And these are the clients we work with. We work with all the blue chips or your Kias or your Balfour Beatties, and we can open doors so you can, so we can facilitate work for the lorries and HS2 and all of this. Now here we are again. Now I think I've made it. The way I'm looking at it, I ain't going to go into detail, but every single person that I know who's at this, there is a story. It's their business. Everybody gets it. Everyone's had some sort of leg up, some sort of touch, or there was a job and something happened, or forgive me, a relative passed and left something, or everyone's had a touch.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready. This is me. We're good. I've been fighting for years and now we're here. Partnerships. We're global. All right. So, but what happened was that group of people, those investors, they managed to convince me that I didn't know what I was doing. Not operationally, financially, and from a compliance point of view. And they said, the way you're running, because let's be honest, I look in the account, I'd be like, how much is there? Right, okay. I'd just say, pay this person, this person, this person, put a deposit on a lorry, do this. That's how I was doing it. I'm not interested in any cash flow. Like, I know how much money there is. Like, I know everything about this place. Like, I live and breathe this place.
Sure.
And I'm just managing the money by what I think should happen. And they're like, no, you can't do that. If you want to work with the blue chips, we need to do forecasting. We need to do this the way you, and they've kind of convinced me, and they've said, look, concentrate on operationally and transportation and construction and your trains. Just concentrate on all that and let us handle the financial element of it and the structuring of it. I was like, okay, well, fine. So I'm focusing in the yard. I'm doing the things I love. And they had like a CFO from, won't mention the name of the company because it's single them out, but from a international investment house. He used to work there and he left there to work there. They also have a COO who was at the biggest house builder in this country working there. And so I'm like, well, these people know more than me. They got a better resume than I have. You know, maybe I am just like a geezer to work in the yard, and, you know, I can't, like, you have to be honest with yourself. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So they take over the financial running of the business. Yeah. We make an agreement about shares, and this tells you how trusting I am. We make an agreement and we sign documentation, and I believe everything's done. They make a new company structure and they take over the finances and it's running. Now, one day, all of a sudden, we haven't got money. Like, and don't get me wrong, we go through things where you got a cash flow pinch, but you're waiting for something to come in. But I'm talking like we ain't got money. And I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, why have we got no money? We've got money. And they were like, oh no, because this, that, the other. And I'm like, I can see why we ain't got money, because we're spending too much money. Why are we spending all this? Who agreed to spending all this? No, we're doing it because of the blue chip, this, that, the other, the work which is going to come in. I said, all right, fine. So they inject some money. And when someone injects money, you think, well, do you know what? They're in. Like they're in, they've put some money in. But they put enough money in to clear wages and stuff. Next month, we're in the same place. They do it again. Month 3, they do it again. And I'm like, something isn't right. Like, the math ain't mathing here. And so I begin to dig into it, and I get a letter come through from HMRC. And I look at this letter and I read it, like, and I'm like, what? Like, what is this? And I've showed them the letter, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how? Like, what? Like, how has this happened? I thought I didn't know what I was doing. I've been doing this by myself. Like, how has this happened? Like, what are you
Start
doing?
questioning yourself then,
yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
And they were actually trying to refinance everything here. And they were, for lack of a better term, they were trying to do a rump job.
Oh.
Yeah. And then there were other companies within their group. And I called the other people. They had a scaffold firm there. And I called them and they went, same thing here. Same thing here. So then I realized I've been done here.
Yeah.
And then I checked company's house. These people, the way they were meant to register it, they register it in a completely different way. I'm like, here's the paperwork and here's what you've done. And they begin to ignore me.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm trying to contact them for months. Listen, I want my company back. I need to fix this problem, what you've created with HMRC. I want to do this. I want to do that. At this point, they start extorting me. See the money that they put in of the problem they caused? They want their money back and some. And I said, but you put this money in because I never had these problems before you came here.
Yeah. And there was no warning of that money needs to be paid back one day either. Yeah.
It was never discussed.
No.
You were investing because you wanted to do, like, we've never, like, where you going to with all of this? Like, this wasn't meant to happen. And then they start sending me letters. These letters must have been £600 a letter, the law firm that sent it. And I'm trying to regain what's going on in here, get control. I have no control of the company. These people have run up these massive bills. I've got these lorries to pay for. And these people are now, they've boxed me in and snookered me on all sides. Do you remember the 2 properties I told you about that had equity?
Yeah.
I had to sign over the 2 properties to them. I had to give them to them so they would release the shares in the company so I could take back control of that. Actually got nicked off me. This has never been in weekly or any of that. It got because I'm not allowed to talk about it. And technically, how am I supposed to talk about it? And furthermore, you lot have put something in my drink because I don't know why I'm telling you this. So it got nicked off me. And then I got it back. And then when I looked at the mess they had caused, I made the necessary calls to HMRC and everyone. And I went, look, this is what's happened. Here's the evidence. Here it is. This is what these people have done. I'll give it to you, but we need to agree a payment plan. And they were like, no, we want it now. And I'm like, no, listen, you're not listening. Yeah. You're going to get it, but you have to do a payment plan because it's not possible. I can't give you what's not there, but I want to give it to you. We don't do that. You're going to have to do it straight away.
How do you just go, yep, there you go.
Can't.
Yeah.
Because who's going to give it to you? Yeah. Who's going to borrow you money to go and pay that? No one's going to do it.
No.
So this is when we had our first restructure. Coming off the back of a partnership where somebody tried to do a rump job and nick the company off me. Then I got it back. And now I've got it back.
So do you think at that point, do you think at that point when they said to you, we want the money, they were hoping you'd turn around and go, okay, you can have Ashville?
Probably, yeah. But I wasn't going to do that.
Rightfully so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are now in 2021, 2022. The timeline is coming out. So I've taken an awful wallop with property developing, and now I've taken that wallop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you go from that?
Well, boy. Yeah. So, however, when they did what they did, I learned a lot. I learned about digitalizing the business. I learned about cash flow forecasts. I learned about systems like for ticketing, integrating them with accounting software, end of months, reconciliations. I learned a lot. Like I learned it in a very hard way, but I learned a lot. And now moving forward, all this information, I've now got it. So I've got all this information. So I can now apply this within the business. So now I'm not just a geezer in the yard in the dirty boots with mud all over him that don't know what he's doing, because I learned the hard way, but I have all this experience now. So now we try to move forward from this point. However, because of the problems in the past, we're not in a position to be going buying things outright. We are knee deep in trying to solve problems and financing and all these sorts of issues. Anyway, we continue in the yard. We're working on perfecting the yard. If I do say so myself, at one point, the old yard, it ran like clockwork. Fantastic material bays, wheel wash, weighbridge, sprinkler systems. It worked perfectly. And then the landlord sold the yard.
Yeah. Which,
You couldn't make it up.
No.
Yeah.
This happened to one fella.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just look up and you say, you are just
He's doing well again. Stop it.
That's it.
And then the landlord sells the yard.
Oh, no.
And the landlord selling the yard is coinciding with that 5-year break clause I told you about. So at the same time, I've gone down, the building work, the construction work is okay. I can't complain. It's okay. We get a lot of work and we don't try to get the work. We get the work because of our reputation. But I'm still relatively new to lorries because however, like 8-9 years, it's not a long time. So we're in the new yard and I have, the staffing has increased significantly and we had a few, mistakes happen, which were very costly. And we had a couple of people go pop on us. I calculated the other day that since I started Ashville as a whole, if I count, we've probably got knocked for about 3 million quid since we started, all in. And sometimes when you do a restructure, people are like, oh, this person didn't get this or this person didn't get that. What you should do is really study the small print and see who loses the most. Because a lot of the time, people are sorted out, but when you're in a restructure, you are always last. So you can spend 10, 15 years creating wealth and value in a business. If you have a restructure, you're the one who's at the bottom and everything you've done gets swallowed.
Yeah.
It's obviously unfortunate that others get caught in the crossfire, but so the landlord sold the yard. The new landlord comes in. They want to triple the rent. I'm like, oh my God.
It's just,
I was like, you couldn't make it up. And I said, listen, man, I said, please just be reasonable. We're a good tenant. We don't miss a beat. I'm already paying £500,000 a year. Like, give me a squeeze. It's a lot of money. You ain't going to get more money. I think we were at $337 a foot. I don't know where we were. This geezer's come along and said, it's going to be £11.50 a foot. I said, nobody could afford that. No, if you want me out, just tell me to get out.
Yeah.
Don't just increase the rent.
No.
So now I need to find a new home. So now I'm going for this big scenario next door because there's been a yard next door which has been abandoned. So I've just opened my railhead. 5 years earlier, I've opened my railhead. But there's a yard next door, and now I'm in negotiations with Network Rail, amongst other people, because other people are trying to get it. And fortunately, I'm successful.
Great.
So I'm going to leave the old yard. And when I go to leave the old yard, I'm going into a new yard, which isn't set up. So now I've got to spend the money again. And I have to put in a new rail line. And I've got to do all of this work. And I've got to get 150-ton cranes in to move my stuff. And while I'm doing this, I have to still go out on the road and try and make money. And I have to pay the finance for the vehicles, which I've got all at the same time.
Still got to function as normal in this time. Yeah.
And then the old landlord says, you submitted your notice incorrectly. you're paying for the old yard until June of 29. You're just like,
I mean, that's not even a few years, is it?
you know, and you're just right. So all you can really do is just get on with it. So we get in the new yard, we set the track up, and we're in here. We get the offices in temporarily. I had grand plans for this yard. Like this was it. Like this is it. But outside circumstances affected it. I'm not complaining. Whether it's fair or not is another thing altogether, but that is life. So we had to dumb down the plans. And because of the problems with third parties, here we are again in a restructure. We're going to pay for another yard till June of 29.
How on earth does a business do that?
Yeah.
But what that does, if you can't do that, then you can't do anything else. So you're forced down a road. We're forced down a road into a position, which we do it and we continue. However, when we're doing it, we're spending because we're moving into a new yard at the same time. And then the work falls off a cliff.
It's just crumbling bit by bit, isn't it? Yeah, dear.
Someone's really trying to mess with you.
Mate. I do it tomorrow. I think I'm just a sucker for punishment. And then the work falls off a cliff. However, I've been through so much over the years. For the first time ever in my life, I am taking a practical view. I'm like, nah, no. Like, what is going on here? Show me the numbers. Like, I've got to grow up at some point, don't I? I've got to grow up. I can't keep doing this. Show it to me. It doesn't work. It's unfortunate. What works? Let's look at the numbers for operating it in a different way. What monthly expenses drop off? What's the income? What does it look like with the lorries still here? How long do the lorries still have to be paid for? I weigh up everything and the lorries don't work. They just don't work. It just doesn't work. And when I'm looking, I'm getting less money for the loads than I was getting when I was in Cricklewood in 2014, 15, 16. I'm getting, how does that work?
And now you've got new trucks with higher finance.
Mate,
The
last trucks I bought off Foxy, and by the time I put my bits on it, they were like 145 each. I got a quote from Volvo like about a month before I made the decision on the lorries. This geezer's giving me a quote for 190 grand for a tipper. I'll go 190 grand. You having a laugh? £190,000 for a tipper, but I'm getting less money for the load than I was in 2015, 16, 17.
Yeah.
It don't work.
Doesn't make sense.
What are they doing to transport?
I don't know. They're saying costs are going up everywhere. And my understanding is that we're just not busy in London. Because speaking to Foxy and some of the lads up Birmingham way and stuff, they're flat out busy.
Yeah.
So fortunately for them and unfortunately for us, it's just this pocket in London. And there are so many firms in London. Within 10 minutes of here, there's like 13 concrete companies. I've got a firm there, and there, all run tippers. Some of them run 60 of them.
Yeah.
But they've been at it a lot longer. Their yard is paid for. They've got a fantastic wash plant. They've been going a lot longer. So the overheads and expenses which are associated with running this business day to day, they don't have it. So it doesn't work for me, but it works for them. And I had to just say, this does not work, but this will work. And that's how we came to this present point. You asked me one question, and that just, I told you, man. That's just, I did say, mate. Like, I did say, you ain't asked, like, you ain't had a chance to ask me. Yeah, you asked a can of worms. That's how. And I have actually never told anyone the story in that detail ever.
Yeah.
No.
So that's how we came to this point.
Yeah, no way. The speaking of costs as well, did you see the whole thing with Lynch? So you've got costs, you've got running a business, and then you've got the man essentially whacking you 800 grand for a clerical error. I think they're described. Did you see that?
Which one?
Lynch Plant Hire. Plant Hire and
They
haulage.
sold all their lorries as well.
Yeah, 800,000 they've just been fined from Birmingham police.
For an admin error.
Yeah.
800,000.
Yeah. 800.
For a movement.
Well, they are a big firm, and it's a bit annoying for me that they said they're going to get rid of all their tippers at the same time as me. So because the market was slightly flooded, people were like, I've got options here, you know.
No, you can't have that look. You can't be wanting to sell your trucks when it's financially benefits you. Do you know? You can't sell.
Oh, no.
If you could go back and sell your trucks at COVID prices,
So I feel bad for them. These things happen. What I've learned is everything's relative, and the bigger your firm is, the more zeros they're going to add to your fine. And it doesn't help when a man like me does a load of videos, and then generally what happens is people use my videos against me.
Right. Yeah.
Government entities and financial institutions will start a conversation with me and say, in your video you said, in your video you showed. And sometimes I'm like, that's why people wonder sometimes. They're like, oh, he didn't talk about this, but I heard that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna completely sink myself for I do what I can.
But for clarification somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, where did the YouTube journey start? Have you done that sort of from the beginning, or did that come in?
No, YouTube I started in 2020.
Right. Yeah.
Once again,
feels like you've been doing it for longer than
It
that.
does.
It
You know,
feels
like,
like,
I've watched for a long time, and I didn't realise it was 2020.
it's 2020. I always wanted, you got to remember, I've always felt like I'm on the back foot. So I want people to know that we're here. Like, I'm proud of what we've done, proud of the lorries. It's all about branding. And I feel like everyone's had a head start on me. Whether that's true or not is a different thing altogether. But I need to, just like the sponsoring of QPR, I need to get it out there. And I went on my mate Jan from Yanni Mice.
Yep.
He did a tour in 2019, and we drove around Europe, and there was a part of the tour where we went into a petrol station, and there was a roll on roll off lifting something, and I was on camera, and I was like, yeah, that's a roll on roll off. It's doing this. It's da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he was and everyone was looking at me like Rain Man. Like what's the matter with this geezer?
What's he all about?
Yeah. And the guy who was working on the creative with Yanni, he saw it and he went, who's this geezer? And Jan went, that's my pal Dan. And he goes, this needs to be out there. And Jan said, look, he thinks that, you should start a YouTube channel. I went, what? A YouTube channel.
Yeah.
To do what? What? To tell people I'm in the yard and I'm crying. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm dirty. A hydraulic hose just sprayed oil all over my face and I ain't going home for 3 more hours. Like, what am I, like?
That'll never catch up.
Yeah. And he goes, and he said, no. What do you want to do? What do you like? And I said, well, I like lorries. I like trains. I bought this new, I've got this tractor unit. And he's like, just so you're comfortable, just talk about what you want. And then I went back to Jan and I said, what do you do with websites and all that? He goes, no, I don't really. And I was like, okay. And then I actually, because he's my pal, you just don't look at it. So I've gone on his socials and I've been like, oh my God. I mean, what have you been doing the last 10 years? How have you done this?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, and then I love websites. So I started typing in things on car wraps and stuff like Yanni was number one for everything. He was it was impossible to beat him. And I was like, how's that possible? And then in my research, I discovered that Google owned YouTube, and basically because of the traffic that was coming from YouTube and all the videos to his website, because of the traffic and the low bounce back rate, his website, it's near impossible to beat him with his website. And at that point I said, because I was spending money on Google AdWords, I was giving them people $5,000 a month just to rob me for someone to click on and click off. And I was like, well, if I'm spending $5,000 a month on Google AdWords, I can do a video about some stuff I like. So I bought one drone. I bought iMac that I thought was a good spec at the time, but obviously the editor just cried about it, saying the computer's rubbish. This was like a NASA spec, but of course it's not good enough. It's spinning. It's too slow. Bought a couple of cameras. I bought Panasonic. Was it P8 something 5? It was an old one. GH5.
There he is. Well done, man.
There's a man there.
If we don't get involved in any of this,
This
is it.
It's a GH5.
Yeah.
And I just gave it a go. I didn't train to do anything. I just thought, do you know what? I just filmed stuff I liked, and kind of went from there. And I think the creative, Ara, the coach, who I was working with at the time, he had a way to manage me, like to say, well, what do you want to do? And he'd be like, and he would pick out parts, like, because I just thought everything's obvious. And he said, it's not obvious. A normal person doesn't know that. It's not obvious. Like, people don't live the life you live. And we were here one day, and he was like, and I said, he said, what have you done today? I said, he went, what time do you get up? I went about 5, and I went here, and I went there, and then he went, day in the life. He went, let's just film you for a day. And probably day in the life was the turning point, because I remember we filmed it, and it did about 1,000 views. And at the time I was like, yeah, that's nice. 1,000 views. Yeah, you win the game. 1,000 views. What? A couple zeros. And then what happened was, one day he's called me and he's gone, have you looked at Day in the Life? And I'm like, no. And I've gone on there and it's done 1 million. And I couldn't believe it. This is mad. Like, we've done 1 million. And then a month later, it done another 1 million. And I was like, what's going on here? And then at that point, it was kind of, I learned that there could be a reward for the work. And then a lot more people knew who we were. But I got some awful backlash from the industry.
Yeah.
Some awful backlash. Like, they're not doing it now because they're all trying to do it themselves. But the industry, they were going, what's he doing? He's been at it 5 minutes. What does he even know anyway? They gave me some awful stick. And now everyone's trying to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and then kind of from that point, it just evolved. And Ashville Weekly was only trying to replicate Day in the Life because it worked. You replicate what works
of course, yeah.
And what doesn't work. And people think, why am I watching this nonsense? But I will say, for YouTube, it's never the video that I think is good or the video I like that does well.
Nope.
Oh, it's so annoying. Mate, I put my heart and soul into building a boat from a skip. I was like, this is going to do 10 million easy. Mate, the work I put in, I spent so much money on steel and welding, and I took it to sea and the skip lorry didn't do no work. Mate, I went, like, I could have gone to France in it. Yeah. I had someone on a support boat flying a drone and everything. I could barely get them to watch it. I was like, why aren't they watching it? Yeah. And I was questioning myself. I was like, nah, there's a problem here.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen.
What's going on?
You've been cancelled.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a copyright on it or something. What's going on? Like, all the videos that my favourite videos are not the videos. No. My favourite videos are like Journey of a Rock.
Yeah.
A Journey of a Rock, going from a quarry blast all the way into HS2. Stone travelled 1,000 miles by rail and road and sea. A Glen Sander, I went up to Scotland to a massive place where there's like 700 million tons of earth in the ground. World's biggest ship. Yeah. World's biggest self-discharging ship, the skip boat one. I did one at a quarry in Wales where in World War II, Winston Churchill ordered all of the paintings from the National Gallery to be stored under a quarry. Mm-hmm. It's where all my plum slate and stuff comes from. These are the videos that I'm most proud of, and I put my heart and soul into them. Mm-hmm. No one watches, well, not no one watches them. People watch them, but it does half the numbers of Weekly, and amazing. I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah. I'm like, what's going on here?
The ones that you don't put, as much effort into are doing the views.
Yeah, and I'm just off the cuff with my DJI. And then I went there and this is long, this is a headache, this, that, and the other. And I put my heart and soul into video, and people are like, meh.
Watch that one.
Yeah. Do you think people just love the format of the weekly, the actual weekly?
I don't know. I think sometimes I think that they feel it's more of a look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they find like it's more authentic.
Yeah.
And like kind of sometimes people associate you with something and it's very hard for them to look at you in another light.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're a musician and then you move into acting, sometimes like people, they just don't see it, or they're just not interested.
No.
Yeah.
So, or maybe they possibly don't take you serious in that sector. They want you for what they want you for.
Yeah.
So you did a show, didn't you, on
Nat Geo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Building Impossible.
Building Impossible with Daniel Ashville. Yeah.
Yes.
Engineering show. So great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Going all around the world, the most difficult builds they were, getting involved with the team on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
What was that like trying to do that and run several companies essentially at the same time?
It was extremely difficult, but for some reason at that time, I was still in just forward gear. So I was like, everything's possible. Doesn't matter what it takes. Doesn't matter what it costs. Doesn't matter. And I always say this, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Just because you can make it work, it doesn't mean you should. I have no regrets, and I'd actually like to do more of what I did in the TV show because that's my passion. Kind of with the decisions I've made in life, a lot of the time I find myself in a position where I have to do something, not I want to do it.
Yeah.
Like I want to do that.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoyed going all around the world to the biggest builds and working with the teams there. I genuinely enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think you get the early days now? Where do you get the confidence and the resilience to just, we're going to do that? Like going into construction with zero experience, then deciding, you know what, sorry, add a lorry. Like where does that?
I think maybe I'm just a bit silly, mate.
Got screw loose. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it kind of comes from, I think my mum.
Yeah.
I think my mum always said to me that you can do whatever you want. I don't entirely believe that's true because I actually wanted to be an astronaut, and that didn't work out for me. But
This time, yeah.
I think I passed it a little bit now. I think I'm a bit too heavy to be an astronaut. So I have to have extra jet fuel in there. Yeah,
and a bigger share.
Yeah, I would feel worse if I didn't try. There's a lot of things I've done that have gone well for long periods of time. And there's things I've tried which haven't worked. But the way I look at it is nothing lasts forever. No business lasts forever. The business might last for 200 years. It's going to finish one day.
Yeah.
And I'd be more worried if I didn't try. And then I'd just be and it'll bug me.
Yeah. What if?
Yeah. What if? So.
Yeah. What does the future of the videos look like now?
That's a really good question. And you know what, mate? I'm trying to work it out. I'm really trying to work out the future of the videos because I've become so comfortable with filming. Like I speak to some other creators that I know, like Bazar and Joe at Stella, and they're like some of them will just film on one day and that's the weekly show.
Ah, right.
Mate, I film, like I could just film any second of the day. I could just film because it's second nature to me now. But like I said, because I'm doing that, does that necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do? And I'm trying to, we have a direction for what we're doing here, but outside of the yard, I'm also trying to map out and work out what that direction is. Because it's, we've done a lot in a very short period of time. So now I need to dissect what actually makes sense and what's being done for the sake of it.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to work out at the moment. I need to work out what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. What works? Yeah.
What works? And if it does work, do I want to do that? Is that going to make me miserable?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only one way to find out. Sounds like you're going to do it.
I'm going to do it again, and
I've listened to the story. It sounds like you're going to do it anyway.
Got a good idea.
How did you? So you'd known Yanni for a long time. How do you know? How do you know Yanni, or how did you meet Yanni?
I know Jan. I met Jan in 2005.
Oh wow!
You might not believe it, I was a bit of a party boy.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And I used to go out in Central a lot.
Yeah.
And Jan used to go out with another friend. And one day, I still go to the same gym. And Jan was in the gym in the morning. And we kind of just bumped into each other. We used to see each other out all the time. At those times, he had his hair dyed blonde, like Eminem. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. And there was no Yanni Mize. There was not even car rapping then.
Yeah.
I remember the first rap ever, Jan did it for Theo Wilcott. It was his S5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was the first one ever. And Jan, back then, Jan was doing all our cars. So if I had a car, but what he would do, he'd take it and I go, I want a system. He'd drive it here. He put like a little 6x9 and a little sub in here.
Yeah.
Then he'd drive over here. Then this geezer had the computer. He'd remap it for you. You know, on those Audi diesel engines, you can get another 40 breakouts. And then he'd take it somewhere else and do something. Then because he had a car wash then as well.
Ah, really?
Then he'd take it to the car wash and get it washed for you and bring it back.
Brilliant.
I used to call him the beverage man because what would happen, he's putting a drink on everything, innit?
Yeah.
Like, he's making a drink.
Yeah.
But I wasn't about to run around to go to all these places.
No.
So I'm happy to pay you a drink for doing everything that you've done.
Yeah.
So I've known Jan 20 years.
Long time.
We've been on lads' holidays with each other to Marbella and all sort. Like we were going to Marbella and stuff like that in 2008. This is way before any Yanni Mize, anything like that. We were,
Yeah, because his channel, it sort of blew up, didn't it? Really?
Yeah,
It's
massive.
pretty quickly.
But you see, when his channel was blowing up and all that, like we lost contact for a couple of years, and I didn't even really know it was happening because I got into social media really late. I didn't like it.
Right.
I didn't like social media. And it's only when I saw him, what he was doing on Insta and that, like I was well late. Like when I remember Lenny at Urban, we were on the tour in 2019 and he put, and he embarrassed me so much. He was winding me up and he filmed me and said, here's my mate Daniel. and he was like, hey, let's try to get him 500 followers or something like that. And this is in 2019. And I was like, don't do that. They're gonna. So I was really late to like the whole social media thing. I never liked it. I felt like it was a massive intrusion on privacy. And I don't like I don't mind doing stuff to say, look, I'm proud of this and you want to share it. But the showy, show offy, and I'm so great, I don't like it. It really grinds my gears. It's like trying to drop it into second and your foot didn't go on the clutch properly. It genuinely bothers me.
Yeah.
So I had to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What do you think as well? I don't want to get too political because bloody hell, it can be here all day, but
What the first question you asked me, really?
Yeah. But obviously, you've got Simon, Urban, obviously Dubai. I think, is Yanni following suit as well? I don't know what's going on there, but yeah. Maybe I haven't watched the latest video. It's not out yet. It seems everybody wants out the UK. Oh, that's the general feel anyway. It's not just, and I know I've just mentioned two guys there, but it just feels like, the UK's had its day in a way.
How can I put it? I had this conversation the other day and what sort of age are you?
29.
29, how old are you?
28.
I'm 43. And I've been really breaking this down in my head. Not trying to justify it, but trying to understand it. And the cycle of people leaving this country is not a cycle of actually leaving the UK. It's the cycle of what people do. My mum came to this country, like in the 70s for a better life. A lot of people came from places like Ireland. They came from other places and they all moved here. We're a couple generations down the road and people are doing the same thing again. It moves in circles. people change. Like a lot of, and it also depends on your personal circumstances and, you know, what you want to do. And I'm not sure the environment here is suited to people who are fully invested in entrepreneurship. Because a lot of people think, well, what am I doing it for? You know, it's like, it's a fantastic country and the entire world owes a lot to this country, like for, you know, what it's given to the world, and it does owe a lot to some other countries as well. But I don't think it's a case of them, anything's wrong with the UK, because people have to adapt when it changes in countries. But I just think that people migrate over the years. I just think they do that. I was speaking to Jan about it. Jan's parents came from Greece. And they came here. You know, like,
no, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a good.
You know what I mean?
Good
Like
point.
I was speaking to my accountant the other day. He came from Ireland, and he came here. So if another generation are going somewhere else, and everybody isn't going to Dubai, I've heard people talking about going to America now.
Yeah,
because of some of the changes Trump is making. Like, there's going to be more work there. A lot of people have gone Australia.
Yeah,
you know, so
yeah.
Sure.
Just feels like the tax implication. That's a lot of the reason, to be honest with you. Like the tax implications in the UK now, and we're regulated, we're watched, punished. Like, it just feels like there's no. I don't know.
It feels like there's no incentive.
Yeah, that's.
It feels like there's no incentive to do well here.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And some of the policies will make you question that, but at the same time, like, I don't really know what hole or what deficit they're trying to fill. And I don't really know I can't see anyone making decisions like that because they want to. It's rather because they have to.
Yeah, sure.
And then everybody else has to, like, act accordingly. Like, they're acting in the best interest of what they have to do. And then other people will have to act, you know. And because someone leaves the country 5, 10 years, doesn't mean they're not coming back.
True.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not coming back with more wealth, which will then be taxed. So I think everybody's just focused a lot on the here and now.
Yeah.
Like what's going in, but taking the long-term view.
Yeah. You've got to do what you think's right at the time, haven't you? Yeah.
And I suppose it's a problem if somebody leaves here for 10 years and comes back with a huge fortune, and then they pay tax when they come into this country. I don't think anybody would be complaining then.
No. Might get HS2 done.
There we go.
You'll need to buy lorries again.
I just want to handle the material. All I want to do is offload and load. That's all I want to do.
Have you noticed now, obviously scaling things back a little bit, it isn't a daily basis, a little bit easier to handle now. You've still got the same problems. There's a little bit weight off your shoulders, maybe.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
You don't realise how intense lorries are. Running a fleet of, we were nearly up to 40.
Well, you're ready.
Running a fleet of that many lorries, the intensity. And I had a chat with a gentleman yesterday who's coming to look at our 223 plates. He does different work. He does day work. He does long-term work where the lorries are on day hire with people. We don't do that work. We had 19 tippers on the road. Having to find a load for them and make them efficient the entire time while managing volumetrics, which you dot them out for the day. What happens if you turn up and they haven't got a wheelbarrow to offload and they're using shovels and the entire time the world could end every 30 seconds. And then you're looking to see where people are. Is this person gone to the right job?
Yeah.
What did this person load? Someone was meant to load sand, but he loaded stone. Now he can't deliver it. He was meant to get loaded with screenable material. He's loaded with muck. But you've already planned that when he tips that muck, he's going to do something next door. But now he can't go there because he's got to go and tip that material somewhere else. Yeah. It's so intense. And the entire, you got to think about the size of a lorry and what it can do on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And the damage it can cause. And then the compliance associated with it.
Yeah.
And then all the cameras, and if there's an accident, and then you're downloading them. And then the worst thing you can do at the end is the best thing you can do, but the worst thing you can do when they all park up at the end of the day. I've done this many a time. You just go for a walk. You're going to hear.
Yeah. And then you're thinking, oh,
and then you're like,
that can't go out tomorrow.
now you're looking for it. Where's this?
Yeah.
And then you're making a list. And then you look and you as you go to drive out the yard, someone's left the light on in the cab.
Yeah.
Then you park it. Then you go in the safe. Then you get the keys. Then you turn the light off. Then you put it back. As you're walking away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or the lorry you got into to turn off the light. You get in, you just put the key in, you have a look, warning on the dashboard. What's going on here? I'm calling Scania Assist. We'll be there in an hour. You've got to wait. It's like,
you're not
mate, it's so intense. But I do get told by a lot of people, like Michael O'Donovan and people who've been in the game for years, they all say, lad, you missed the good years.
Mm.
They've always told me that.
Yeah.
They said you missed it. Mm-hmm. They said years ago, you got good money for a load. Everybody spoke to everyone. Like, we weren't all friends, but no one nicked anyone's work.
No.
And
there was some loyalty there.
There was like, people knew how to behave and you could make good money.
Yeah.
And he said, this is what we do now. He said, what we're doing now, we're just doing it. He went, the game was much better. The game was better 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Who can do it for me and who can do it the cheapest? That's all they're interested in now. Yeah.
Dear. No, that seems to be the case. But because you're on YouTube, because people know who you are, you're at the mercy of that name on your truck. If that truck cuts somebody up, or I don't know, you're the worst person in the world, aren't you?
Mate, I had generally what used to happen. They would wave. They wave at the trucks and the drivers wave back. Yeah. There was a driver, I'm obviously not going to mention his name. People would wave at him. He'd stick his finger up at him.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God, this mate. Like, and then they called the office and abused the staff. And then one of the staff, some people are more sensitive than others. And then someone will cry.
Yeah.
And then I'll go in there, why are you crying?
Yeah.
Someone did this. Then someone will call the driver and the driver will say, I'm not on effing YouTube, this, that, and you're like, oh my God.
So now you are HR as well as
I'm HR. I am the HR department. Yeah. I'm definitely the HR department.
Dear. Yeah, I know. As well as everything else as well.
Yeah.
It's just,
Did you have a sense, I mean, you could have been naive to it, but I suppose you got Yanni and other friends who have been doing YouTube when you started. Did you have some indication that there was going to be accountability for, like, eyes were going to be on you for every turn, every mistake? Did you have some, expectation?
I didn't think it was going to be as bad because I didn't think they'd watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would watch it. When I knew that something was, after Day in the Life, HMRC landed in here and started dipping my tanks for red diesel. I had about 3 or 4 investigations. The environmental landed in, the council landed in, and everyone started with, in your video, you said.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone started with.
Yeah.
And like when HMRC were here, I was like, I'm in the video. You've seen the videos, yeah. And you think that I would put red diesel in my lorries? Is that what you think? You think that I would do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing you'd do if you anything like that would put it on YouTube. Yeah.
I never thought they'd watch it. I never thought they would watch it. Like that video I put out when we first moved the yard, of my plans for the yard. Oh, that rubbed the council up the wrong way. What did they say? I was going to like make like a bit of a space for the creative, like for the videos and this, that and the other. Oh, he's putting a recording studio in there. And I was like, what? And I took him out into the yard. I went, can you see any of that here? I said, it's just a wish list.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you spoke about a batch plant. And I said, you haven't applied for permission. I said, because I haven't got one.
Yeah.
It's just a wish list.
This is my dream. This is what I want to do. Yeah.
So you think I'd learn my lesson and start putting it out there. So
you live and learn, I suppose.
Well, thanks very much for having us, mate. If you've enjoyed this episode of Talkin Shop, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe and let us know who you want on Talkin Shop next. Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah, no, thank you ever so much. It's been like a little, obviously when we first started, we had like our own little, imagine if one day, and you're on that list. So appreciate it, mate. Thank you ever so much.